What's going on, guys? So today on this SHOKY Not So Quickie, because it's an action figure sort of collectible that also has a buttload of accessories, we are looking at the Bandai Tamashi Nations SIC Kamen Rider Ghost figure. Sorry, I thought there was more to that title. But I did pick this thing up from a Japan House here locally. It is one that I've always really kind of wanted. I am a big fan of Kamen Rider Ghost, and the SIC line is just a very interesting interpretation. So is that the Superior Imaginative Coliseum? I have no idea. But the sculptor is Kenji Ando, which is pretty cool. Kamen Rider. You got the Kamen Rider Ghost logo down there. I'm going to actually trying to download that as well. And this is the packaging. It is an official Tamashi product. Come around here and you've got stuff and things and such. Look at that, isn't that cool? And come around the back and you've got all of the info. You've got him here and pointing at things. It's probably saying it's got translucent dome. Then it's got, look, you've got sculpted and painted silver knee balls. It's fine. You got things, and then you got other stuff and things over here too. It's pretty cool, actually. It does do some swappable gimmicks and whatnot. By the way, you got the little guy with the toilet right there, but it's partially blocked by the actual Bluefin logo, which is annoying, but this was out new enough that it says Bandai Spirits on it. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Look at that. 2015. So 2015, I believe, was the actual series the Ghost came from. I don't think the figure was obviously from there. I think it came out much later than that, but it is what it is. This is just the packaging. If you cut the little bits off, you pull out the little sleeve, and then all the cool stuff is in it. So let's get to all the cool stuff. So one thing that's going to suck about this review is that everything is black, so I'm going to have to do my best to make everything shine. So right off the bat here, we do have the base that it comes with. It says SIC, says Kenji Ando, and Kamen Rider Ghost Ore Damashi. And it does come with these two thingies here. That is, of course, for any Tamashi stands if you have them. Unfortunately, I don't. And unfortunately, it doesn't come with anything like that. So underside is just hollow. But one thing I do have is from another Tamashi figure. Actually, not Tamashi, but will you focus, please? It's actually Sentinel. But this is the arm from my Tekkaman blade. Once again, hard to see. Let me see here. Can I brighten her up? Yeah, so we'll start there. And I'm going to make use of this here in a bit. Sorry, my focus is very slow. So that's just the single largest thing it comes with that isn't actually a Kamen Rider. And so since we're going to talk about the base, might as well bring out the Kamen Rider himself. And there he is. There's our ghostified friend on all his orange and black glory. Now this is, of course, with the hood on. That is actually an option, which is pretty neat. So, as it goes, one thing that's very interesting to keep in with the Ghost feel, he does have his skirt, for lack of a better term, because it's supposed to be kind of a hoodie slash long coat in the back. So this is all translucent and all this molded detail. And you got the nice painted orange. So, of course, for anybody who's done any modeling, painting orange over black is a giant pain. But you can see he's got all of this really fine detail molded in, etched in. It's pretty awesome. Once again, more translucent bits here where the Damashi, which is basically his jacket or his hoodie, is going very ghostly. So Ore Damashi is his standard mode. So I'm going to take off his hood for now so we can actually look at his noggin. But one thing that sucks about that is the back of his head tends to come off. So this is a swappable bit. So this has a nice translucent part to it, and it does have a hole back here. But there's an alternate version that comes here in a minute, but I'm going to leave that one there as it is. And then we can look at his head, which is all translucent orange. And then his black eyes. Then a nice cool blue silver horn, which is awesome. I'm going to just raise this up quite a bit. I might have to retarget my lights a little bit because I'm having to do this a lot closer than originally anticipated. Okay. And you can see here, he's kind of got a skull thing going on. I'm going to strip him down in between transformations so we can really see what's going on under here. You got his logo right here in his chest in white, and then you got all the orange stuff going on. You got the Damashi here, which is very flared out. Little silver bits here. Kind of silverish gray. Whoa, what the hell is that focused on? You got silver and gray going on there. Just neat. So I wanted to put on the alternate hood. My bad. So there's another hole right here. Hard to see. There's a hole right there. And if you pop the head off, you can put that in place, because he did kind of run around with the helmet off. I'm sorry, the hood off. And then, like I said, that part really does suck. There are some definite fitment issues, and being that this is a figure that's a couple years old, I will grant that some things are probably looser than they should be. You know, like the horn kind of wants to pop out, but mostly it's the back of the head that does that. But even with the hood down, he does look good. Let's talk articulation and stuff. Just get that out of the way now. With this shoulder piece on a ball joint, you can raise the arm up to about 90 degrees. It is on a very interesting shoulder type. There has a peg that goes down into the thing that gives you a little bit of forward and back movement, almost like a butterfly. You do get bicep rotation, sort of. At very least, it's here. One thing that is, the other thing is that the whole thing is rotating, giving you the ability to move the arm. Articulation is a thing that is very difficult on this one. It does have a double jointed elbow, which gives you a decent range of motion. Looks pretty good. And then you can also rotate the forearm a little bit, or you can rotate the entire arm inside the shoulder or bicep armor, which is super annoying in and of itself. The wrist armor doesn't do anything. The hand is on a swivel that's inside here with a disc hinge and a ball joint where the hand itself mounts, molded in a flat black with painted black hands. He does come with a variety of hands, and we'll go through those. This is just kind of the open hand. And then on this side, you have the sword holding hand. We'll look at the sword here shortly, but the articulation is a problem because I have had this shoulder completely pop out on me multiple times, just trying to articulate the arm in a way that I wanted. The higher up I get it, the more stiff it gets and the less it wants to do anything until eventually it pops out. And I thought I broke my very expensive action figure. And this was a very expensive action figure. Okay, so he does have ball joint in the torso. Goes up and down. He's got a separate moving piece here for the lower torso where the driver is, the Ghost driver. He does actually have the Tamashi icon in there. Looks pretty cool. You can swap those out whenever we switch. I will show that off. Once again, we have lots of accessories to get through. One thing that is annoying is making sure that the jacket is pegged in properly. Now the hips are on a separate ball joint inside here, so that can move, and you got him on a very long sticky ball joint so he can get a whole lot of hip movement. The actual thighs, on the other hand, don't want to spread. They're just running into that, so that is unfortunate. And also being able to kick forward and back, also unfortunate, because he's actually hitting the thing. So if you kind of really maneuver it, you can see I like this translucent, matte black, bunch of different things here, gloss black, orange. And I'm going to admit something here. I'm a little dumb. I never noticed that the orange piping, so to speak, on his body is a skeleton. So there's thigh bones, there's your shin bones, your arm bones. It never occurred to me. I'm just going to be honest. So you do have thigh rotation. You do have a double jointed knee, which moves pretty good, and then the kneecap goes with it. Although when it goes back, it might be a little bit wonky. It's full floating, so it's a little strange. Ankle is just a very basic kind of universal ankle here, and it pegs into the foot, so the foot gets a little rotation, and you get a toe thingy. But I love the fact they have completely molded the sole of the boot. That's pretty cool. So, but that's it. He is limited, yet has good articulation. I think most of it comes down to clearances, where he doesn't want to, like, for instance, spread his legs. Where like other modern figures would have a little drop down feature there, so you could really get some movement, but you can get a decent A stance for the most part, which would be another reason to have a Tamashi effect or Tamashi stand to help him kind of stand up. This isn't perfect by any means, but it will work, especially for what I wanted to use it for. But if you kind of do that, you can at least give him a little bit of assistance. I would like to get a proper, I think it's a Tamashi 4 effects. So I'm going to set this aside for now, and we can look at some of his toys, including the Gungan Saber. If I remember correctly, that's what it's called. So his main weapon in the show could transform between a gun and a sword, if I remember correctly, and this is a much more elaborate version of the sword that he normally uses. You do have the ghost icon in the middle, or logo, however you want to say that. Translucent handle with some orange paint on it, silver paint down here, black paint on the bottom, because it's all this bluish green transformer. And this will come into effect later, no pun intended. All of the outer blade is also translucent, painted silver and black, because that all kind of comes apart. I'm looking at the thing, so I never know when my focus goes away. I apologize. And this thing will have multiple modes, or at least a couple different modes when we get there. But as proven already, he doesn't like to stand. But you can give him his sword. This is his only sword holding hand, realistically. And you kind of have to position it with this big chunky section here in the fingers, or else he does not have a grip on it. So something like that. And while the wrist does have a little bit of motion, it is actually very difficult to position the sword properly. So I'm going to set him up like this. Looks pretty cool. Now we'll do a couple of different pictures, but I'm going to get that one just for right now. And here, look, I can use this just to hold his arm, just to keep him from moving. That's pretty cool. I'm going to take a picture. Nice. Alright, and there is no weapon storage, so he just summons it when he needs it and such. I do wish he had I think it had a gun mode, depending on what icon he was using, what power he was using, it would transform, which is actually really neat in the show, and also in the toy, so to speak. So, like, you get the Gungan Saber. So, he has a buttload of accessories. Least of all are different holding hands and fists. And yes, I'm setting this up here so I don't lose them. Do you have any idea how hard it is to see small black hands on this, desktop, so to speak? So he does have a left fist and a right fist. I believe these came on the figure, so I need to keep track of those. And then he also has a left kind of open hand, right open hand. So you can use that for a few things. I think also this might be used for, like, he's hinshining. And then dang it, dropped it. He also has a very particular left holding hand, which I believe this has a singular function. It also has a tab sort of in there. So this is going to be for holding a different weapon. So I'm going to set that over here while I move this out of my way, because we have so much more to go through. So let's set him way back yonder, and we're going to go through a lot of this very carefully, because I do not want to lose bits and pieces, and because some of this is super specific, I want to only do different things with it. So we have, if I can get them out of here, they're super tiny. Can't get my finger on it. So we have, we have one of his icons. I believe this is actually for the Tamashi. So that's his normal power. And then you have this one. I can't get out of here. which is for the other Tamashi, which I'm completely forgetting the name off the top of my head. I have to look at the instructions because I already forgot the name. But I believe you can hold these little icons. If you can kind of hold them in this hand. No, wait, it's the other hand. But you could hold them in that hand. But the open palm hand that he's currently got on, he can just sort of have the icon resting there, which is kind of cool. So when he gets ready to henshin, he can do that. Once again, push that to the back. And then he also has a bunch of cool stuff, like this candle base, which will come in handy in a minute. So set that aside. There's the instructions. Okay, so what we're going to do real quick is convert his sword to a candelabra stand, which is interesting. So one thing that you do, go ahead and pull off these bits. Those are going to stay off to the side for when we get to the Musashi Damashi. You want to go ahead and pull this section apart. I believe you want to pull this section out. And you want to remove just the tip down here. And very carefully set that where you won't forget it. Then we also need this guy right here. So it makes the whole candle set. I wish they'd painted these orange. That would have looked really awesome. So it actually looked like flame. That would just be super cool. And then we need to take... Okay, so the base here will plug into the bottom here. Just be super careful with your silver paint. Probably scrape. And then I believe we want to take this, put it here, and then use this side and put it into there. Or maybe not. Maybe it's just like that, and I forgot. Let me look. Yes, that is correct. So that is our candelabra that can go alongside our ghost, like so. And save this piece because we'll need it. And then we also get, gotta get him out of here, our little friend. So one of the more delicate things that it comes with is this little piece of plastic, which does plug in here, or here. I'm gonna say that didn't look right. And that is for Uterson. He was like a little eyeball ghost, and I think like his guide, kind of. I don't actually remember. I don't know exactly what it is, but he was kind of not really a sidekick, but I think he was also kind of helping him learn things. And look at his paint. Like, he's obviously molded all translucent, and then got white paint for the cape, off-white for the eyeball, a little smile there, and then orange flame eye going on there, and it just looks like flames. It's pretty cool, and it does have a little tiny hole way back in there that he can plug onto here. Because he was always, I think he was almost entirely always at the home base. Could be wrong, once again. But if they could give this flame effect here, they should have given it here on top of the candlesticks, in my opinion. So, next up, we need to look at the Musashi Damashi. But we're going to do this in a very specific manner. So, you can also utilize this as a stand for the other Damashi. So, we're going to have to do this in stages. So we bring out the actual like robes, more or less. You can see here. And he was supposed to be a samurai. So look at the paint. Nice red paint, kind of all washed down. Once again, coming down to the translucent ghostly skirt, but with a red tint to it. Black paint here, silver paint coming across. And then the most annoying part is how these silver bits are. You'll see why in a bit. But one thing we need to do is plug this guy in here, I believe. Like so. And then, I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah. So up inside there, we will plug in this guy. If I can. It's being difficult. There we go. So I got a little translucent guy there. And then that will sit on the candelabra. At least it should. There we go. Now we need to raise up the camera because this gets really tall. Look how much those orange eyes pop there. Okay, so that's mounted to that. And so now we're going to build out the Tamashi. He comes with 2 of these blade arms. There's a hinge here, and then a ball joint with a tiny little peg up here. And that plugs in right here into that nice softish plastic. It's got beautiful red and silver paint, as you should expect from Bandai. Oh, look at that. I mean, there's a little bit of paint gathering right there, but it's not bad. Silver paint, all that. Plug that in right in there. And I will say that does not feel comfortable actually plugging that in. So there we can have most of his ghostly form. And then, last but not least, we have the hood, because it's always a hoodie. There's a hole right back here on the back of the neck, and this is not easy. Trying to plug in that into that tiny hole in the back of the head is problematic because of this. Now, I think this might be a mold mistake, where this piece is actually forcing the hood into a different position than it's meant to go, and it will plague this figure for the rest of time. So this needs to be tilted at a downward angle to get that plugged in, and it just doesn't. It's like, not to mention everything is a translucent thing trying to plug into another translucent thing. And then once again, this is just in the way. Like, I have to be close, and it's just not going in. Plug hole. And I just can't get it. I just can't. Like, it does not want to go. Like, that should be aligned right there, but then it doesn't plug in. So I'm just going to let that hover there, essentially. So that should be actually at a downward angle, and it's not. And because this kind of piece is just there, see, like, this should be how it plugs in, right here, that exact spot. But the only way to manage that is to turn it at an angle. So that's the extra Tamashi on display stand. And that's actually very, very cool. And that's not all, of course, because if it goes on a display stand, it can go on him, which is the part I'm dreading. So I'm going to do something real quick, and it's take the swords and give them a minor upgrade. So you get these loose handles, also translucent, because why not? And you unplug this guy in basically right there. And so we're going to end up with 2 separate swords. Once again, samurai motif, more or less, like so. Set those over there. And yeah, this is the part I absolutely dread. So when you set this guy back here, and go ahead and bring Ghost around, I want to take the horn out of his head, like so. Go ahead and take the orange part off. Take the back of the head off, because that one has the hole in it. We don't really need that necessarily. It just depends. So you can see those don't really tab into each other that well. Actually, save that just in case. And we need to go ahead and remove the Tamashi itself. Go ahead and yank the head off, just because it's easier, which comes out at the neck, even though I'm not entirely certain it's supposed to. Go ahead and remove the down hoodie. Then lift up the front of the jacket. It has a tab that goes behind the chest, and it has two little posts that plug into the chest. And then there is a plug on the back side, and you just sort of strip it off, and then everything falls off. So this is the part where I was talking about how he looks essentially stripped down and in between forms. And yeah, he has a hinge and a ball joint for an actual neck. And you can see he's got a full-on skeleton head along with a full-on mechanical kind of skeleton chest, which is disturbing in its own right. And yeah. So the other thing we want to do is go ahead and pop the front, or take off the entire, rather, ghost driver, which does have the cool molded ghostly face in it. And the Tamashi, not the Tamashi, the icon and everything is plugged in right there. And that went all the way to the floor, as I expected it to do. And we want to replace it with the Musashi one. He might also be a pirate. There might be a hint of pirate in that. So a lot of the Damashis that he uses tend to be kind of historical figures. There's quite a few, if I'm honest. I don't really want to go through all of them. Billy the Kid always stands out. I think, was it Edison? I think. Was it Edison or one of those guys? One of those inventors from the past also. So you can see there, now we've changed the icon, which means we are hinching. We also need to put the chest back on. I think that this was a very weak part of it, because that comes unplugged incredibly easy. Like, I mean, you saw how fast that came out. Okay, so now that we got that situated, we need everything else. Bring all this back. Go ahead and pull this out. We can leave these attached because they just stay there. And we really just need to remove this from the stand as it is. And then we can set the stand to the back for right now. Which, by the way, the base is super weighted, so it's not going to come off. Okay, so his main body stays the same, but we want to put the new Tamashi on and around his arms. So you can get his arms out to the side. And then the back will plug in to the hole in the middle of the back. And then you can see right in here, hard to see, but there's this tiny little slot. That's where that will plug into. And then you have the pegs that will plug into the front of the chest, as it were. And this one is not very happy to be of assistance. So that plugs in over there, and then you have to really kind of wrap it around and plug it in. And then we've got the swords off to the side, and then here's where this shoulder is now stuck. And the other thing is, you can't put his arms down now. There's a weird thing you can kind of do by pulling up on the shoulder, and you can see that it's on a longer peg. That'll give you some room to sort of work, but not enough, because that shoulder, and you can see this is all that it is pegged in with. That's not a lot. Like, this is kind of how you want it to be, and it's not going to get there. Not to mention, that is also very stiff, meaning getting it in place and to stay looking decent is not easy. And once again, this has come untabbed. And we haven't even got to the point of trying to put his head together. So he does come with a new face mask, because he always changes when he changes Damashis. So instead of the orange faceplate, you now get this one, which has the cross swords and some silver. And it's mostly blacked out. So that will plug in there. His horn always remains, because that's like his deal. And then I believe we want to stick with the one that's got the hole in the back of the head. Because, well, that one does. You only need it when he has a hood that's up, obviously. If he has one where a hood is down, you don't. So, but unlike the candle, there's no good way to kind of cram this past that thing. Now that is about as good as it's going to get. And forget about trying to turn the head at all, because it ain't going to happen. And once again, the other Tamashi is sitting over here. But that's him with the Musashi Tamashi. And then you can get it just all situated. You can see here, look, the actual hood does not fit between those shoulder bits. And this one's even pushing out quite a bit. So, I mean, that's him with that equipped. And then you can also go ahead and swap out for that hand, which did not go back on. What the heck? Come on. Wow, that does not want to go on. So, this is my problem. As it stands. This is a very expensive figure. We're talking Mezco money here. We're talking $120 to $140, depending on who you go with, where you pick him up. And you have situations where you can't even plug on a hand that has to go in there. Or you have a situation where you can't put on part of his proper uniform, for lack of a better term. And like getting his legs to line up. All this, get the feet to line up. It's kind of a pain. And then we finally get to the point that I can actually give him his frickin' sword. So there we go. There's that. Now stand up straight. Homie. And then you try to take the other one and insert it. I guess technically he's holding it, but not really. So I thought that he would, thought he had another hand like that one, but I guess not. So I don't know exactly how he's supposed to hold this one the same way. I guess he's not going to hold it the same way. Yeah, I just had to double check. I mean, he is basically meant to use the same hand that he holds the other sword, which is a much bigger handle. He's supposed to hold this one with. No, just no. That's not a thing he can do. And that's depressing. I mean, like I can really wedge it like that. He's not exactly holding the handle, but I mean, that's how it does. Now, I guess this was one of the earliest ones he got, because I would not have voted for this to be the Tamashi that he switched to, personally, but I guess in keeping with the sword theme, that's why they did this. The other option you can do, still with this, is in fact utilizing the stand to store the other Tamashi, if you want to. But for me personally, no. Don't want to do that. So I'm going to try to set it up the way I want it to be from now on. Alright, so basically this is what I managed to do. So I've got the other Tamashi actually on that claw stand. It was the perfect size to plug in there with the claw removed. And then I've got our Yurisen over here just floating about. And then got my ghosty boy right here. I think that's a very nice looking dealie when you set it up right. Now, if I get an actual Tamashi, proper Tamashi thing there, I will get one of those. The black one actually works because it just sort of disappears in there, but the eyes still glow. You do have to have the head crooked, or else it won't show that off properly. I do want to get a picture of this, though. Here we go. So that's more or less how I'll probably have them displayed in the future. I do wish you could have a sword without giving up the candle. or the candle section. I think that would be a much better way to go about it. Even if he had a smaller version of his own sword, not just the thing, just the side blades that come off. But yeah, this was a long review. Sorry about that. It's a lot of stuff to go over when you have this many accessories. But, I'm not happy about the fact this doesn't fit very well. It's very awkward, and the fact that small pieces want to unplug very often, like the back of his head or the chest plate, all kind of are very awkward when it comes to that. Everything else is pretty cool. I do wish he came with more small sword holding hands for the shorter swords, but the paint, the effect parts, all that kind of stuff is all very, very cool. Also very much wish it had just come with an upright stand piece. And if you're going to have a base that has the ability to do that, you should have that. And it just makes sense in my mind. For a figure this expensive, it should. The articulation is limited by the design of the ball joints and such like that. That's very annoying in my mind. Also, like, you can't have the hood up if you want the head to actually be mobile and do things. He can move about when you don't have that there. Also, the fact that we got only this version of Ghost. Ghost has like 20 or 30 Tamashis probably, ultimately. Not count, I guess, with other riders counted in there. Gaim got many SIC versions. Ghost, not so much. And realistically, they could have just released more Tamashis to go with him, not just full-on bodies. But he also has companions that, his other fellow riders from the series that shared the same gimmick also never got figures. So it is what it is. Maybe they just thought that this was just a bit too much at the time, but ultimately I'm still happy with it, as long as I have a proper stand for that and I can really put him on display next to all of my other Kamen Riders. And something I did forget for size purposes, there he is next to Marty. So if I really wanted to, you could totally have Marty become a Kamen Rider Ghost. So, but guys, that's going to be it for this review. Sorry it took so long. It was a lot of stuff to go through and slightly disorganized. Apologies for that. But if you do like this thing, go try to find it. I'm going to be honest with you. I was lucky to find it when I did, and if knowing that I probably was never going to happen upon it again, that's why I picked it up. So, I'm kind of happy, ultimately. And anything that I have problems with could easily be fixed with some super glue, or maybe even some little bit of heat applied. But I'll catch you guys on the next one, and remember, as always, keep on nerding.